So good evening, everybody. First of all, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. My talk will be just a few slides on the modifications of diet that we do routinely in a patient, a child, especially in a child with nephrotic syndrome. Okay, as we all know, nephrotic syndrome is defined with a massive urinary protein loss of more than 3.5 gram per day. And it is associated generally with hypoalbuminemia, and massively patient will be edematous. And whatever be the cause of nephrotic syndrome, the common thread finally is the protein loss in the urine. And it is said that it should be considered as a systemic disease. When we talk about the different supportive care in nephrotic syndrome, several specific measures as well as non-specific measures are there. But one most important factor is to have a lifestyle modification, which includes most importantly the dietary modifications. So the nutritional care will help you to get rid of the edema and other manifestations of disease and replace the nutrients that is lost along with protein in the urine. And it will also retard the progression of kidney disease, whether it is, if it is a focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. So an individualized management of nutritional care is very, very crucial in managing a nephrotic syndrome. So recently we have come across the idea of a medical nutrition therapy, which is as per the KDOQI 2020 guideline. We should institute a medical nutrition therapy, and that should be instituted by a registered dietitian nutrition, which is a part and parcel of treatment of a patient with nephrotic syndrome, for that matter, any form of kidney disease. So my talk is basically the guidelines from the recent KDOQI guidelines in 2020 and the KDIGO 2021 guidelines on glomerular diseases, and also the International Pediatric Nephrology Association. So going on to the protein intake in nephrotic syndrome, the recommendation says us to have a protein intake of 0.8 to 1 gram per kg. And you add 1 gram per gram of protein that is lost in urine. This can be up to a 5 gram you can add to the total daily intake of 1 gram per kg. More than 5 gram, they say we have to be careful, because the International Society of Pediatric Nephrology also recommend us to have a recommend. They have no data to say that increased protein intake is beneficial. And the type of protein, they recommend us to have a vegetable protein, even though there is insufficient evidence as per the KDOQI for vegetable protein. There are certain theoretical benefit of a vegetable protein, as it reduces inflammation, decreases the expression of renin-angiotensin status, reduces nitrotyrosine formation, reduces metabolic acidosis, etc. And hence, US FDA suggests an intake of 25 gram of soy protein daily, so that it will prevent the coronary artery disease even in general population. So this is just the wordings of KDOQI 2021, saying the same as 0.8 to 1 gram per kg, add 1 gram per every gram that is lost in urine. But in those with nephrotic syndrome, but with a GFR of less than 60 ml per minute, they recommend us to limit the protein intake to 0.8 gram per kg per minute per day, per day. And if it's a severe, if you can reduce further with addition of keto analogs, that will be better. And keto analogs, there is some data for those with a progressive type of kidney disease with a very low protein diet with added keto analogs is also said to be beneficial. And importance of protein metabolism, because it affects the growth of the children. It is essential for maintaining the muscle mass in adults. And daily around 250 milligrams of protein is catabolized per day, and the byproducts are all uremic toxins. All these toxins has to be excreted through the kidney. Once you have a low GFR, all these will accumulate and leads to various other systemic complications. And the excess protein also produces renal hyperfiltration response. So a low protein has some synergistic action to the renin-angiotensin aldosterone blockade. And so literature is more in favor of a low protein diet with addition of keto analogs in order to slow down the progressive kidney injury. One word on IV albumin. Once the patient is admitted to the hospital with massive edema, is there any role of IV albumin? Refractory edema, diuretic resistant states, very low serum albumin, pre-renal failure with oligoanuric state, a septic child. These are the indication for IV albumin. Otherwise, there is no routine indication for IV albumin, because whatever you give as IV albumin will be lost in urine. Very low transient effect only on plasma albumin concentration. Coming to the sodium intake, they say that you have to restrict the sodium to less than 2 grams per day or 90 millimoles, which is beneficial to reduce the blood pressure, to get rid of edema, to improve your cardiovascular status, and also reduces the progression to end-stage kidney disease. Fluid intake, they recommend restrict the fluid intake to 2/3 of the maintenance fluid that is required in a child. May be detrimental in an underfilled patient, but now the literature is more in favor of an overfilled hypothesis. So restrict fluid intake to 2/3 of maintenance fluid that is required. Do not recommend excessive fluid restriction even in euvolemic patient. They can take according to the urine output, according to your volume status, according to your serum sodium. You can balance the fluid intake in a nephrotic situation. And reversing edema, it should be a very slow reversal of edema, and recommended weight loss should be around 0.5 to 1 kg per day. Caloric intake should be sufficient to achieve the desirable dry body weight. And if you want to get a catch-up growth, they recommend 120 to 140% of recommended dietary allowance of protein. So the protein intake should be roughly around 30 to 35 kilocalories per kg per day. Most of this should come from the carbohydrate diet. Regarding the fat intake, most of the nephrotic children will be with dyslipidemia, with high level of triglycerides, lipoprotein, etc., which may increase in CV mortality, especially if it is a long-standing resistant nephrotic state, and some role in the disease progression also. So hyperlipidemia is usually proportional to proteinuria, and the best treatment is the proteinuria reduction. There is no role for statin, at least in children, and the dietary fat should be less than 30% of the calories, and polyunsaturated fat should contain about 7 to 10%. And the dietary modification with respect to lipids should be the first line of treatment, especially in children, even in steroid resistant state. So there is a specific diet for the child, that is child 2, with a reduced trans fat, restricting the fat to 7%, and limiting the cholesterol intake less than 200. And they say that you should not restrict fat in children who are less than 2 years, taking into consideration of their growth spurt. Regarding the other calcium, magnesium, vitamin D supplementation, there is no routine recommendation. Only if there is hypocalcemia, hypomagnesemia, vitamin D deficiency, you supplement these different metals in a nephrotic child. There is a recent report on KI report, which says that a gluten-free, dairy-free diet in child with steroid-resistant nephrotic syndrome has some beneficial effect in reducing the urinary protein excretion. This is just a case report or a study from KI report. A new entity of protein energy wasting in nephrotic syndrome, NEFPEW, that is a short form used for this. They have to be considered as a hypercatabolic children, and which leads to muscle mass and increased level of various biochemical indicators like blood urea, phosphorus, and uric acid. And this will give you that this child is hypercatabolic, and so they should be treated in a specific manner with respect to control of all these things. Now my co-speaker will go ahead with the nutritional aspect of nephrotic syndrome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I request Sunita to start her presentation. Sunita, you're muted. Can you unmute, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here today, and a wonderful job by the organizers. And let me move on. Dr. Srilata has wonderfully explained all the guidelines in detail, and I would like to take you forward with respect to what we encounter when we counsel parents of nephrotic syndrome children. Now, when we look at there are three major nutrients that we play with when we talk about nephrotic syndrome. That's the fluids, the salt, and the protein intake. When it is a child of between 1 and 3 years, the protein requirement as per the estimated average requirement is around 0.95 grams per kg body weight. And as the child grows older, the requirement for protein per kg body weight reduces slightly. And as Dr. Srilata rightly put it, the changes that we have to make in with respect to the lipids or the fats that the child eats are quite challenging. But otherwise, we should remember that the basis of a nephrotic syndrome diet revolves around a healthy home-cooked food. And I would like to highlight a few challenges that we face when we talk to the parents with nephrotic syndrome children. There are basically two sets of patients that we see. One are the ones that who have myths about not knowing the difference between nephrotic syndrome in early stages and the CKD. Any kidney disease for them is the same. And the moment the doctor tells them about the kidney, they start asking us if the child can eat fruit, if the child can eat a dal, and things like that. So this is one set of patients whom we have to counsel for eating right and eating adequately for the chronological age of the child. Now there are other set of parents who are overzealous and think that this is the right time to start nutritious food for the child and start overfeeding the child with a lot of red meat and a whole lot of eggs, thinking that these are the ones that are going to promote growth and help the child in recovery. So these are the two major completely different segments that we encounter in this set of the population. Now, if you see that when you look at salt restriction for a child with nephrotic syndrome, it is the first line of elimination that we have to look into are the processed snacks and the salt that come from pickles, the fried food, the processed dairy like the cheese and the salted butter. And these are the foods that have to be first avoided, the fast food and the street food. And when you're dealing with children, these are the favorite foods of the children. And it is very difficult to convince the parents that during this kind of sickness, it is these foods that have to be eliminated from the child's diet, because the parents somehow feel that comforting the child with from the food perspective helps the child to get over the disease. Now, when we make for modifications with respect to fat, it is the saturated fats and the trans fats that we have to avoid, and most of it come from, again, the favorite foods of the child, the chocolates, the salted butters, and the junk food or the processed food and the fast food. Now, when you talk about fluids, what are the fluids that you can easily include in a child's menu? Of course, keeping in mind the allowance that is given. The foods that are, the liquids that are allowed are the vegetable soups without the cream and butter, buttermilk and curd, curry or the majige huli or the more kolambu when you come down south. Then the rasam or the amti, the porridge, and of course water. Now, what are those that you have to very consciously avoid are the creamy and the greasy soups, the instant soups, that mixes that can be used at home. Those have to be avoided, and this is very commonly used in India these days. The soft drinks, the caffeinated beverages, packet juices, bone broths, because they are really high in electrolytes, milkshakes, ready to use smoothies, and the kadas or the kashayas or the tender coconut water. These things have to be taken with caution. Now, doctor has elaborately discussed as why high protein is actually not recommended, and it is the adequate protein that is required for the child's growth. Now, what in terms of protein, what are the good sources? The egg whites, the lean poultry, fish, which has a good amount of omega-3 fatty acids, the pulses and the lentils, and then combinations of pulses and lentils, the soy protein, which has a heart protective effect, and the unsalted nuts. These have to be included in the child's diet. And apart from that, the other heart healthy foods that have to be included are the olive oil whenever possible, or even the seed oils are perfectly fine, vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, millets, and other things. Now I have a sample menu for a nephrotic child about 3 years of age. So here what I have done is I have avoided the creamy gravies, packaged foods, and sugary sweets. Of course, during the catch-up growth phase, definitely homemade kheer, halwa, starchy foods, porridges can be included to increase the calorie content of the food. Now, when the child is hospitalized, during prolonged hospitalization, oral diet may not suffice for meeting the calorie and protein requirement and may require enteral feeding. And in case of prolonged hospitalization and when oral supplementation is required, vitamin supplementation and iron treatment may also be indicated. So with this, I close my presentation, and the common myths that we encounter are the ones that I have shared with you today. Thank you very much.